All right, so you wanted to dive into some philosophical ideas, right?
Mm.
Well, we found something really fascinating. Uh, Years of musings posted on YouTube.
Yeah, it's like we're getting a glimpse into this guy Genrimain's thought diary.
Genrimain, that's the guy's name.
Yeah, and these are from a video series he calls Nocturnities. It means night thoughts.
Oh, night thoughts. That's cool. I like that. Okay, so what kind of stuff are we talking about here? Give me the overview.
So he's reflecting on life's big questions, but what's really interesting is how he brings in everyday advice too.
Okay, so like a mix of the profound and the practical. I like it. Give me an example. What's something that struck you?
Well, he talks a lot about asking others for advice.
Oh, interesting. Like relying on the wisdom of others.
Exactly. And he even compares it to having a conversation with yourself, but with someone else's perspective.
I like that. So it's not about having all the answers yourself.
Right. It's a strength, not a weakness, to seek guidance.
He uses a phrase, let me see if I get this right. Hay que aprender a no ir solos por el mundo.
We have to learn not to go through the world alone.
Exactly. We need each other, right?
And it's not just about asking for advice, though. It's really listening to it and appreciating the people who give it.
Oh, that's a good point. It's a one thing to ask. It's another to actually take it to heart.
Right, to let it change how we act, how we approach things. Everyone has something to teach us, even if it's just a different way of looking at things.
Okay, so we've got asking for advice. What else? What other practical wisdom does he offer?
He actually talks about the importance of touch, of connecting physically with others.
Really?
Yeah, he uses the word animalitos, little animals, to describe our bodies.
Oh, little animals. That's kind of sweet.
It is, right. It's
Mm.
like he's reminding us that we're physical beings who need that connection.
And he connects that to the idea of offering support to the people in our lives. He asks, ¿Cuántas veces le dijiste hoy a alguien que lo apoyas?
How many times did you tell someone today that you support them?
It's a good question. When was the last time I told someone that?
Right. And he ties that to supporting ourselves, too,
Yeah.
emphasizing that todos somos uno, we are all one.
Oh, wow. I like that we are all one. It's like we're all connected, so supporting others is supporting ourselves in a way.
Yeah, exactly, like paying it forward, but with this deeper level of interconnectedness.
So it's not just about being nice. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness. I like where this is going. So we've got advice, we've got support. What other themes come
Like
up?
gratitude is a big one.
Gratitude. Okay. Like counting your blessings, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but he goes beyond just the material stuff. He's talking about appreciating being alive, the simple things like breathing, having people who care for us.
It's so easy to take those things for granted.
Exactly. He even playfully calls out those who dwell only on their problems, urging them to focus on the abundance of good already present.
I can see myself falling into that trap sometimes, dwelling on what's wrong instead of what's right. It's like we're hardwired to focus on the negative sometimes.
Right. It takes a conscious effort to shift that perspective. He points out how readily we can list our problems, yet we overlook those simple joys. Sunshine, music, a good laugh.
It's true. It's like we have to train ourselves to see the good. Does he offer any practical tips for cultivating that sense of gratitude?
He doesn't get into specifics in this particular passage, but he does connect this idea of counting your blessings to a quote from Seneca. A rare humanum est, to err is human.
Okay, I'm curious now. How do those two things connect? Mistakes and gratitude. What's he getting at?
It's subtle, but I think he's suggesting that we should be as kind to ourselves as we are to others.
That's a good point. We're often much harder on ourselves than we are on anyone else.
Right, and his point is, look, we all make mistakes, it's part of being human. Instead of beating ourselves up, what if we focused on appreciating the good?
I see. It's about shifting our focus, changing our perspective.
Exactly. He even jokes about how some people might be more concerned with correcting his spelling than engaging with the actual message.
Oh, that's funny. And so true. People get hung up on the little things, the typos, the imperfections, and miss the bigger picture. Speaking of the bigger picture, where do his musings go from there?
Well, from there, things take a turn toward the really philosophical. He starts grappling with the nature of reality itself.
Oh, I like where this is going. Tell me more. What does he say about the nature of reality?
He quotes William Blake, if the doors of perception were cleansed.
Right. If the doors of perception were cleansed, What a line. So is he suggesting there's a whole other reality out there beyond what we can see and touch?
That's exactly what it sounds like. He seems to be suggesting that if we could tap into something beyond our physical senses, our intuition, our soul, whatever you want to call it, we might be able to access a completely different experience of reality.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. How does he even begin to explore that idea? Does he give any examples?
He talks about looking beyond superficial appearances. Like he asks, when you look at me, what do you see? It's like he's challenging us to look past the physical form and connect with the essence of a person.
I get it. It's like he's saying our perception shapes our reality.
Right. He's saying if we're constantly focused on limitations, on what we lack, that's all we'll ever see. But if we can shift our perspective, focus on possibility, on abundance, then we might actually start to experience those things more fully in our lives.
Okay, now that is a powerful concept. It reminds me of that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly. It's
What?
about recognizing that we have a choice in how we perceive the world and that our perception creates our reality.
Okay, that is definitely something to ponder. So we're talking about how our perception shapes our reality.
Right, and Henry suggests one of the biggest obstacles to really grasping this is our tendency to overthink.
Yeah, we can definitely get stuck in our heads sometimes.
He actually has this great line. Hold on, I've got it written down somewhere. Le metemos pensamiento de pensamiento al pensamiento que piensa que se piensa que es.
Whoa. Okay, that's a mouthful.
I know, right?
What does this even mean?
It's basically like saying we overthink our thoughts.
We put too much thought into thinking.
Exactly.
We think about thinking about thinking.
Uh-huh. Yeah, something like that.
We get lost in our own heads.
We do. And Henry argues that a lot of this overthinking comes from our egos.
Our egos.
Yeah, that need to be right, to protect ourselves, to feel superior.
Oh, I see what you mean.
He has this phrase, siempre que quieras reivindicar a tu ego desiste.
What does that mean?
It means whenever you feel the need to defend your ego, let it go.
Let go of the need to be right.
Exactly, because that need comes from a place of insecurity and fear.
It creates separation between ourselves and others.
Exactly. It prevents us from connecting authentically.
So how do we escape that trap?
Henry believes it starts with awareness, recognizing when our ego is driving our actions and consciously choosing a different path.
A path of humility and compassion.
Exactly. Choosing to see ourselves and others through a lens of understanding and connection.
It's like what he was saying earlier about how we're all playing a game of separation.
Yes, exactly.
I don't remember him using that exact phrase, though.
He doesn't, but he hints at it throughout his musings, this idea that we perceive ourselves as separate individuals, but that this separation is actually an illusion.
An illusion.
Right, deep down we're all connected, but we've forgotten that.
And we're choosing to play this game of separation.
And that illusion is the root of so much suffering, competition, conflict, loneliness.
Because we think we're alone.
Exactly. But the good news is we have a choice.
We can choose not to play.
We have the power to choose connection, compassion, love.
Okay, but how do we actually do that?
It's a journey, not a destination.
Okay, but where do we even begin?
Henry seems to believe it starts with awareness, questioning our beliefs, choosing to see the world through a different lens.
A lens of unity instead of division.
Exactly. Imagine how different the world would be if we all remembered that we're in this together.
It's a beautiful thought. And it's not just wishful thinking, is it?
You're right. There's actually a growing body of scientific evidence to support this idea of interconnectedness.
Really? Like what?
Well, for example, quantum physics has shown that particles that were once connected can still influence each other, even when separated by vast distances.
So even though they appear separate, they're still connected somehow.
Exactly. It's like they're still communicating on some level.
Wow, so there's scientific evidence to suggest we're all connected on a deeper level than we realize.
It's not just science either. Ancient spiritual traditions have been saying this for centuries.
That we're all connected.
Yes, this idea that we're all part of a universal consciousness, a cosmic web of life.
It's mind-blowing when you really think about it.
It is, and I think Henry is tapping into that with his musings.
Inviting us to open our minds to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. To question our limited perceptions, explore the depths of our being, and embrace the possibility that we're part of something much greater than we ever imagined.
That's quite a thought.
It is, and it makes you wonder, how would embracing this interconnectedness change how we live our lives?
It's a big question.
It is, and one worth exploring further.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, before we do, there's one more aspect of Henry's musings I want to touch on.
Okay, what's that? Okay, what was that one last thing you wanted to highlight?
Oh, right, his sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. He definitely doesn't take himself too seriously.
Like when he talks about how much we obsess over other people's grammar.
So true, though.
He's even joking that some people are going to be more worried about his typos than what he's actually saying.
I mean, let's be real, that probably happens.
I'm sure it does.
It's like, come on, people, look past the typo.
Right. Look at the bigger picture.
Nobody's perfect.
Exactly. And I think there's something really refreshing about that.
Definitely.
Like it's okay to laugh at ourselves a little.
It makes these big philosophical ideas feel more approachable.
Exactly. He's not afraid to be vulnerable to share his own struggles and insights, and he does it with a sense of humor.
It makes you feel like you're having a conversation with a friend.
Right. Someone who gets it.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Genry's Nocturnities, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
That's a great question. I think for me, it's the reminder that we have a choice.
A choice.
We can choose to get caught up in the illusion of separation, to focus on our limitations, to dwell on our mistakes, or we can choose to embrace our interconnectedness, to focus on our potential, to approach ourselves and others with compassion.
I like that.
It all comes back to choice.
We have the power to choose how we see the world and how we show up in it.
And that's a really empowering thought.
It is.
It's easy to forget that. So I think it's important to keep coming back to these ideas, keep questioning our assumptions, and keep exploring what it means to live a more connected and fulfilling life.
Absolutely. Maybe Henry's night thoughts will inspire some of our own. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive.
Yes. Let's leave our listeners with something to ponder.
What do you have for us?
How about this quote from Genry? Dime qué libros de autores clásicos has leído de principio a fin y te diré cómo es tu ortografía.
Which, for those who don't speak Spanish, means, tell me what books by classic authors you have read from beginning to end, and I will tell you what your spelling is like.
It's a bit cryptic, but I think it speaks to the importance of looking beyond appearances.
Don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes the most profound insights come from the most unexpected places.
And sometimes, the things that really matter are hidden beneath the surface.
So to our listeners, as you go about your day, remember to look beyond the surface. Embrace your own unique journey, and never stop exploring the big questions.
And until next time, keep diving deep.